What's up, YouTube? I'm Cara Janelle. Welcome to this video. As you see by the title, this is part 2 of the spirit of Absalom and dealing with the narcissist spirit. If you didn't see part 1, maybe click to part 1. I'll link it below. But we are kind of researching and going through the Bible and looking at a particular individual named Absalom who was embodying what people nowadays call a narcissist spirit. As I'm going to make known before I even get into it, these are spirits. So the Bible tells us we don't wrestle against flesh and blood. This is not something you want to be pointing the finger at somebody and accusing them of, but more so going to the Father in prayer when you recognize, a person or someone, your family member, your friend, your coworker, who may be operating in these spirits. And as I said in the past video, I really started I always heard this term narcissist. I always heard this term about narcissism, and I started asking God, is there anyone who had these attributes in the Bible? Was there anyone operating in these spirits in the Bible? And which is when the Lord started bringing me upon Absalom. And as I made known in that last video, I'm just repeating it just in case no one watched the other one that came across this video. The Lord started talking to me about Absalom, and for months he was talking to me about Absalom, and I didn't really understand why until I really, dug deep and started seeing, okay, this is someone who embodied these spirits. And God was really answering the question that I asked him when I was saying, is there anyone who operated in these type of so-called narcissistic spirits in the Bible? And I'm going to also read the definition of a narcissist again, just in case anyone didn't watch the last video. It's someone whose personality traits include a sense of entitlement, a lack of empathy, a need for admiration. They're manipulative, grandizing, with envy and belittlement, arrogance, and a lack of accountability, with the need for constant attention and admiration. Also the need for control. As I said, not only did Absalom embody a lot of these traits that the world may call a narcissist or narcissism, which everything is spiritual and these things are spirits. And even in the world they say that people can't be cured of this type of, they called it a mental illness online when I was researching it, that people can't be cured from these. But I believe in Jesus Christ, and I think he can deliver through all things. And one thing that I brung up about King David, how even at one point in time he was operating like a little manipulative when it came to Bathsheba and the Uriah situation. God delivered him from that. So there's no one that can tell me that God can't save and God can't deliver people from things that the world says are incurable. Nevertheless, we're going to get into the rest of 2 Samuel chapter 14, because the last video I didn't have any memory and it cut off, and plus that video was 30 minutes, so it was long enough anyway. People's attention span isn't that long. We're going to start at verse 15, because I did read verse number 14, and we're going to get into it. We're also going to go into Ezekiel chapter 38 and see how these spirits that were operating in Absalom also were somewhat parallel to how Satan was described in Ezekiel chapter 38. So just going to get right into it. I hope that you guys are all doing blessed and well. Now, what I do want to do is make this a little bit bigger, because when I looked at the playback, the texts were really small on the last video. And also, I do not know how to turn off these pop-up ads, so if it starts speaking again, I will just pause it or mute it or do whatever I have to do. So I'm going to start at 2 Samuel chapter 14, verse number 15. Now, therefore, that I am come to speak of this thing unto my lord the king, it is because the people have made me afraid. And thy handmaid said, I will now speak unto the king. It may be that the king will perform the request of his handmaid. Verse number 16, for the king will hear to deliver his handmaid out of the hand of the man that would destroy me and my son together out of the inheritance of God. Verse number 17, then thine handmaid said, the word of my lord the king shall now be comfortable, for as an angel of God, so is my lord the king to discern good and bad. Therefore, therefore the Lord thy God will be with thee. So she's saying like, okay, the widow woman from Tekoa that was told by Joab, go and say this to the king. She's saying to the king, now look, I'm looking at you as an angel of God. I know that my Lord the king is going to discern between good and bad. Basically saying like, you're going to make the right decision here, right? I'm going to try to highlight that. Then the king answered and said unto the woman, hide not from me, I pray thee, the thing that I shall ask thee. And the woman said, let my Lord the king now speak. And the king said, is not the hand of Joab with thee in all this? And the woman answered and said, as thy soul liveth, my Lord the king, none can turn to the right hand or to the left from aught that my Lord the king hath spoken. For thy servant Joab, he bade me, and put all these words in my mouth, in the mouth of thine handmaid. So basically the woman is saying now, like, look, yeah, the king asked her, does Joab have anything to do with this? And she's like, yeah, Joab, he bade me, he told me to come do this, right? Verse number 20. To fetch about this form of speech hath thy servant Joab done this thing. And my Lord is wise according to the wisdom of an angel of God to know all things that are in the earth. And the king said unto Joab, behold now, I have done this thing. Go therefore, bring the young man Absalom again. So Joab sent this lady before the king. Go tell the king this. And when the king hears your situation, the king's wise mind, right? He's gonna he's going to figure this out. He's going to understand where I'm coming from. He's going to get it. So at this point, the king is like, you know what, Joab, you sent this woman here. I get it. Go ahead and get Absalom, right? Verse number 21. And the king said unto Joab, behold, now I have done this thing. Go therefore, bring the young man Absalom again. Verse number 22. So we're getting back. I'm reading the whole chapter because I feel like it's necessary, but we're getting back into Absalom and his traits, these spirits that were operating in him. Verse number 22. And Joab fell to the ground on his face and bowed himself and thanked the king. And Joab said, today thy servant knoweth that I have found grace in thy sight, my lord, O king, in that the king hath fulfilled the request of his servant. So Joab arose and went to Geshur and brought Absalom to Jerusalem. So he went and got Absalom, right? Remember, Absalom had ran off after he had killed his brother Ammon. And everyone was in shambles about it. All his other brothers were in shambles. King David was in shambles. Absalom had fled to not take accountability or deal with what he had done. Verse number 24. And the king said, let him turn to his own house and let him not see my face. So Absalom returned to his own house and saw not the king's face. So the king was like, okay, Absalom doesn't have to be in a whole nother country or whatever. He doesn't have to be far away from here. But you know what? I'm not ready to face Absalom right now. So just Absalom can go back to his house that he was at before he ran off. But I'm not ready to deal with him right now. Verse number 25. But in all Israel, there was no... Now, this is the part. We're about to go into Ezekiel chapter... what chapter it was? Ezekiel chapter 38, sorry. But this is when we're going to see some parallels when it comes to Absalom's
How do you
behavior.
Sleep at night? On a mattress from Mattress Firm. So I sleep.
It's the best sale of the year. Get a Sealy King bed for a queen price.
I'm sorry, I don't know how
Get
to
matched
stop
at Mattress Firm. Sleep at night.
So let's read that first. Verse number 25. But in all Israel there was none to be so much praised as Absalom for his beauty. From the sole of his foot even to the crown of his head, there was no blemish in him. And when he pulled his head, which basically means like cut your hair, for it was at every year's end that he pulled it, because the hair was heavy on him. Therefore he pulled it. He weighed the hair of his head at 200 shekels after the king's weight. And unto Absalom there were born 3 sons and 1 daughter, whose name was Tamar. And she was a woman of a fair countenance. So not only is the Bible telling us like Absalom was so fine basically, but also that his daughter was a woman of fair countenance. But the thing that I want to talk about is listed in Ezekiel chapter 38. I just want to show a quick parallel. Now, give me just a second because I'm trying to find this particular verse. Is it chapter 38? Let me see. Oh, Ezekiel chapter 28. I'm sorry. Okay. So now, Ezekiel chapter 28, verse 1. The word of the Lord came again unto me, saying, Son of man, say unto the prince of Tyrus, Thus saith the Lord God, because thine heart is lifted up, and thou hast said, I am a God, I sit in the seat of God in the midst of the seas, yet thou art a man and not a God, though thou set thine heart as the heart of God. Behold, thou art wiser than Daniel. There is no secret that can be hid from thee. With thy wisdom and with thine understanding thou hast gotten riches, and hast gotten gold and silver into thy treasures. By the great wisdom and by thy traffic thou hast increased riches, and thine heart is lifted up because of thy riches. Therefore thus saith the Lord God, because thou hast set thine heart as the heart of God. So this is the heart attribute, right? The heart posture. Therefore I will set strangers upon thee, the terrible of the nations, and they shall draw their swords against thee, against thy beauty of thy wisdom, and they shall defile thy brightness. I want to get the specific part. All right, verse number 12. Son of man, take up lamentation upon the king of Tyrus, and say unto him, Thus saith the Lord God, Thou sealest up the sum full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. Now, what did we just read about Absalom? It said, in all Israel there was none to be so much praised as Absalom for his beauty. From the sole of his foot even to the crown of his head, there was no blemish in him. Right? Now, when we're talking about the attributes of Satan here in the book of Ezekiel chapter 28, verse number 12 is saying, you full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. Verse number 13, thou hast been in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone was thy covering, the sardius, topaz, and the diamond, the beryl, the onyx, and the jasper, the sapphire, the emerald, and the carbuncle, and gold. The workmanship of thy tabrets and of thy pipes was prepared in thee in the day that thou was created. This is how we know it's talking about the enemy, calling him, thou art the anointed cherub that covereth. And I have set thee so, Thou wast upon the holy mountain of God. Thou hast walked up and down in the midst of the stones of fire. Thou wast perfect in all thy ways from the day that was created till iniquity was found in thee. So the only reason I'm bringing up this chapter, right, in the book of Ezekiel, which is, Ezekiel prophesying to the prince of Tyrus, but then it goes into, sorry, I'm very tired. That's why I'm leaning like that. But then it goes into the attributes of the enemy. But it keeps saying that, this person was perfect in beauty, right? The way that he was created was perfect. And not only that, it talked about his heart posture. So the enemy's heart posture, saying, you wanted to set yourself as God. You set your heart as you were God. And this is another thing with the narcissist when it comes to the spirit of, when it comes to control. This is what these type of narcissistic spirits embody. They want to control everything. And when someone has their heart set in that way, it's like, it's one thing that you want things your way. I feel like that's just a human thing. You want things to go your way. And then it's another thing to make efforts to control it, manipulate things to control it, to make it be the way that you want it to be. And when it comes to, Ezekiel prophesying this, is saying the enemy said in his heart, like, I am God. I sit in the seat of God. Like, I am a God. I control this. I do what I want to do. Right? And it's saying, yet thou art a man and not a God, though thou set thine heart as the heart of God. So also, when it comes to researching this narcissist spirit in the Bible, it's a lot about the heart posture. When the Bible says, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. But if you set in your heart that you're a God and you're in control, then that's in direct objection to the Most High. So then it's like the narcissist spirit kind of makes themselves an idol. Because if we go back to the definition that we read at the beginning of this video and in the last one, it says someone whose personality traits include a sense of entitlement, lack of empathy, a need for admiration, manipulative, grandizing, envy and belittlement, arrogance, lack of accountability with the need for constant attention and admiration. These are spirits that want to be praised. And these are spirits that were embodied in the enemy. Anyway, I'm not going to go off too long in that tangent. Let's return to Absalom. So I just wanted to show a parallel, how they were saying there was none in Israel to be as much praised as Absalom was. It was for his beauty because he was just so fine, or whatever the case was. But along with the beauty aspect and him being praised and receiving all this admiration, Absalom also had these other traits, as we already talked about in the last chapter. Very manipulative, right? He had the lack of empathy because he manipulated the situation to kill his brother. He had hate in his heart because he had determined that he was going to kill his brother. And the Bible told us clearly that he hated his brother. And he manipulated the situation in order to do that. And along with the hate in his heart, along with the manipulativeness, along with the lack of accountability because he didn't want to deal with what he did, he fled, and the lack of empathy for who else it hurt, it also said he was much praised. So he was receiving admiration, right? So when I was asking God about was his narcissist spirit in the Bible, or these narcissistic spirits, is there anything in the Bible that can go deep into that? This is who he brought me upon, Absalom. Verse number 27. And unto Absalom there were born 3 sons and 1 daughter, whose name was Tamar. She was a woman of fair countenance. And Absalom dwelt 4 years in Jerusalem and saw not the king's face. So the whole time when the king told him to come back, for 4 years, he didn't even see the king at all, right? Therefore, Absalom sent for Joab to have sent him to the king, but he would not come to him. And when he sent him again, a second time, he would not come. Now, one time is one thing. Now Absalom's about to manipulate another situation to get his way. So he sent for Joab. Joab didn't show up. Joab didn't come. He sent again and Joab still didn't come. So now what's Absalom going to do? Come on, let me highlight it. So verse number 30. Therefore he said unto his servants, see, Joab's field is near mine, and he hath barley there. go and set it on fire, and Absalom's servants set the field on fire. So here we go again with manipulating things. Absalom didn't get his way. Joab didn't come when Absalom called. So now Absalom is like, well, what can I do to get his attention? What can I do to make him do what I want him to do? So he set his field on fire. Now this is like, why? Not only is that like manipulative because you're going to make someone do something that they weren't intending to do, but also it's just not a good look. Like, you got to burn someone's field down for what? Verse number 31. Then Joab arose and came to Absalom unto his house and said unto him, wherefore have thou servants set my field on fire? So now Joab shows up like, okay, you done burnt my field down. Why? And Absalom answered Joab, behold, I sent unto thee, saying, come hither, that I may send thee to the king, to say, wherefore am I come from Geshur? It had been good for me to have been there still. Now therefore, let me see the king's face, and if there be any iniquity in me, let him kill me. So now, when we read the definition of narcissism, when they talked about grandizing, I need to look that up real quick. Do it on my phone. So this is a big move to make. This is a big statement to make. Okay, he burned Joab's field down, and he's like, I don't even know why I'm here. Why did the king bring me back here? I want the king to see me. Mind you, Absalom is Absalom. The king is the king. But he's like, in his heart, look, this man's going to have a one-to-one conversation with me. He better see me. And if he finds iniquity in me, then let him kill me. That is a bold statement. Let me look up the definition of grandiosity. The quality of being impressive and imposing appearance or style, especially pretentiously. Pompous superiority or pretentiousness. So when we go back to the definition of narcissism, like, this is a pompous superiority or pretentiousness to say, like, the king better see me, and a bold statement to make to say, like, okay, if he got a problem with me, that he can just kill me, like, right now. Let's go on. So Joab came to the king and told him when he had called for Absalom. He came to the king and bowed himself on his face to the ground before the king, and the king kissed Absalom. So that ended well. Let's go to we think it ended well. Right? What else do you want, Absalom? All right. The king has called you back after you fled, after you've done these wicked things. No one is trying to punish you for the wicked things that you've done, but it's forgiven, right? You get before the king, even though you manipulated your way into that situation. Absalom gets before the king, and the king kisses him to show, like, okay, no hard feelings, everything's cool. And it came to pass after this that Absalom prepared him chariots and horses and 50 men to run before him. And Absalom rose up early and stood beside the way of the gate. And it was so that when any man that had a controversy came to the king for judgment, then Absalom called unto him and said, of what city art thou? And he said, thy servant is one of the tribes of Israel. And Absalom said unto him, see, thy matters are good and right, but there is no man disputed of the king to hear thee. Absalom said, moreover, oh, that I were made judge in the land of Israel, that every man which hath any suit or cause might come unto me, and I would do him justice. Listen to this. And so it was that when any man came nigh to him to do obeisance, he put forth his hand and took him and kissed him. And on this matter did Absalom to all Israel that came to the king for judgment. So Absalom stole the hearts of the men of Israel. My whole thing was, okay, the king kissed Absalom saying like no hard feelings. Then all of a sudden Absalom is usurping authority, basically halting people before they get to the king. This was my like understanding of this, that he was stopping people before they get to the king and saying like, look, I'll hear your cause. I'll hear what it is that you're going through and I'll make a judgment on it, like he was king. That's crazy, ain't it? Absalom has completely decided for himself that he was going to be the king and he was going to do what it took for him to receive that. And he started winning people's hearts because, you know, they said that he was highly praised already.
How do you sleep at night?
Bed for a queen price. Get matched at Mattress Firm.
Sorry, I don't
Sleep
know where
at
these
night.
ads are coming from. But they said that Absalom was already highly praised, right? Out of all of Israel because of his beauty and all these things of that nature. So now he has decided to do this thing. And that's another thing when it comes to like narcissistic traits. These people usually are highly praised in the limelight because people don't really know the true self from what I researched, right? Verse number 7. And it came to pass after 40 years that Absalom said unto the king, I pray thee, let me go and pay my vow, which I have vowed unto the Lord in Hebron. For thy servant vowed a vow while I abode in Geshur in Syria, saying, if the Lord shall bring me again into Jerusalem, then I will serve the Lord. So basically, Absalom's going before the king, like, look, let me go pay this vow that I made to God, right? Seems good, seems well. Let me go pay this vow that I made to God, right? Verse number 9, and the king said unto him, go in peace. So he arose and went to Hebron. And Absalom sent spies. And Absalom sent spies throughout all the tribes of Israel, saying, as soon as ye hear the sound of the trumpet, then ye shall say, Absalom reigneth in Hebron. Did the king tell Absalom that? Because I didn't read that the king told Absalom that. Absalom has now once again taken authority over the situation, and he's going to make himself reign, even though no one told him this, no one gave him this position. And if we go back to Ezekiel chapter 28, it said when Ezekiel was prophesying to the prince of Tyrus, like, look, you set your heart as the heart of God. You set your heart in the heart of the one who makes decision, as the one who's in control. You're saying in the heart, when he was prophesying, when Ezekiel was prophesying, he's saying like, your heart, you set your heart as the heart of God, as you're the one who makes decisions. You're the one who's in the control, right? There was King David still. There was a king, but Absalom disregarded all of that and was making these decisions on his own, right? So now he sent these spies, and let's continue reading the story. And with Absalom went 200 men out of Jerusalem that were called, and they went in their simplicity and knew not anything. So the people that he, this plan that he decided and told these people to come do, they didn't know that this was incorrect. They didn't know that they were being manipulated. They didn't know that they were being used in order for Absalom to get his desired results. They thought this was all okay, that everything was copacetic. They probably thought the king told him this. They probably thought everything was the way it was supposed to be, but they didn't know that Absalom was using them in order to make it look a certain way so that he could achieve his goals. This is manipulation.
All yours.
How do you sleep at night?
On a mattress from Mattress Firm. They have a low price guarantee, so I sleep.
Get matched at Mattress Firm. Sleep at night.
All right. So, verse number 12. And Absalom sent for I don't even know how to pronounce that. We're right here. They sent for this person, can I talk? Geo Knight, David's counselor from his city, even from Galal, while he offered sacrifices. And the conspiracy was strong, and for the people increased continually with Absalom, right? So now the Bible's calling this a conspiracy. So when I say manipulation, Absalom was walking in and all these things like that, even the Bible's calling it conspiracy, meaning that this was not something that was supposed to be. This is something that someone conspired, someone decided to do in objection to what was, supposed to be being done. And there came a messenger to David saying, the hearts of the men of Israel are after Absalom. Lord Jesus, please help me to finish this right now. So Absalom was praised. Absalom was like, Absalom, as he's going, having these people saying that he's reigning, more people are coming to be on his side. More people are like taking his side and saying, okay, cool, we love Absalom. We like him. And they're taking the heart of Absalom. They're taking the side of Absalom. Verse number 14, and David said unto all his servants that were with him at Jerusalem, arise and let us flee. Now this is the king. This is the king fleeing from his son. And David said unto all his servants that were with him at Jerusalem, arise and let us flee, for we shall not escape from Absalom. Make speed to depart, lest he overtake us suddenly and bring evil upon us, and smite the city with the edge of the sword. What? You're telling me David, a man of war, a man of valor? Oh, you're telling me that King David is saying, let's run from my son? So you have to see, like,
How do you sleep at night?
On a mattress from Mattress Firm, so I sleep.
It's the best sale of the year.
There was some type of evil in Absalom that even his own father was like, look, we gotta go. Let's flee from here. Because if not, if we don't hurry up and depart from here, Absalom will bring an evil upon us, and he'll smite the city with the edge of the sword. And the king's servant said unto the king, behold, thy servants are ready to do whatsoever my lord the king shall appoint. So the servants are like, whatever you want to do, we're with it. And the king went forth and all his household after him. And the king left 10 women, which were concubines, to keep the house. And the king went forth and all the people after him, and tarried in a place that was far off. And all his servants passed on beside him, and all the Cherethites and the Plethites and the Gittites, 600 men which came after him from Gath, passed on before the king. Then said the king to Atal the Gittite, wherefore goest thou also with us? Return to thy place and abide with the king, for thou art a stranger and also an exile. Whereas thou camest but yesterday, should I this day make thee go up and down with us, seeing I go whether I may return thou, and take back thy brethren, mercy and truth be with thee. So King David's telling this other person, like, go. Right? And Attai answered the king and said, as the Lord liveth, and as my lord the king liveth, surely in what place my lord the king shall be, whether in death or in life, even there also will be thy servant. So the servant's like, look, I'm not leaving. And David said to Attai, go and pass over. And Attai the Gittite passed over, and all his men, and the little ones that were with him. And all the country wept with a loud voice. And all the people passed over the king. Also himself passed over the brook Kidron. And all the people passed over towards the way of the wilderness. And lo, Zadok also, and all the Levites were with him, bearing the Ark of the Covenant. And they set down the Ark of the Covenant, and Abiathar went up until all the people had done passing out of the city. Let me get a second to get this together here. So King David, right, who we know is a mighty man of war, who we know killed Goliath, who we know was battling Saul, an adversary, for years upon years upon years, and was a man after God's own heart, that went through all these battles and all these things, is running from Absalom, saying, we got to get out of here because this man Absalom, he will bring evil upon us, although it's his own son. So you can't tell me that everything was right with Absalom. You can't tell me that something wasn't off with this person, that this man of war, this strong man of God, King David, said, look, I'm going to flee from Absalom because he'll smite the whole city with the edge of the sword. Now, when we think of someone so strong as King David feeling this way, then we have to think of what was really inside of this person. What spirits were really operating inside of this person? And they had the Ark of the Covenant with them. And lo, Zadok also and all the Levites were with him, bearing the Ark of the Covenant. And they set down the Ark of the Covenant, and Abiathar went up until all the people had done passing out of the city. And the king said unto Zadok, carry back the Ark of the Covenant into the city. If I shall find favor in the eyes of the Lord, he will bring me again and show me both it and his habitation. So David's like, look, go take the Ark of the Covenant back. And this is like, this is a symbol. The Ark of the Covenant is not, I'm not saying that's a symbol. I'm saying, but he's saying like, take it back. And if I find favor in the eyes of the Lord, then he'll bring me upon it again. Like I'll see the Ark of the Covenant again, and I'll be able to dwell in the habitation of the Lord, which was Jerusalem, right, at the time. But if he...
Too far, man. How do you sleep at night?
These ads, I'm sorry. But if he thus say, I have no delight in thee, behold, here I am, let him do to me as seemeth good unto him. And the king said also unto Zadok the priest, art not thou a seer? Return into the city in peace, and your 2 sons with you, Amizah thy son, and Jonathan the son of Abiathar. Verse number 28, see, I will tarry in the plain of the wilderness until there come word from you to certify me. So David's sending the Ark of the Covenant back, and he's sending this priest back saying like, look, go there, and I'm going to be out here in the wilderness until you send for me, until you send a word to say it's okay for me to come back. Zadok therefore and Abiathar carried the Ark of the Covenant again to Jerusalem, and they tarried there. And David went up by the ancest of Mount Olive and wept as he went up, and had his head covered. And he went barefoot, and all the people that was with him covered every man his head, and they went up weeping as they went up. And one told David, saying, Abiathar is among the conspirators with Absalom. And David said, O Lord, I pray thee, turn the counsel of Abiathar into foolishness. David prayed about that. So basically, this other person was somebody that was also working this conspiracy out. He was on Absalom's side. And it came to pass that when David was come to the top of the mount where he worshiped God, behold, Hushai, the Archite, came to meet him with his coat rent and earth upon his head. Unto whom David said, if thou passest on with me, then thou shalt be a burden unto me. But if thou return into the city and say unto Absalom, I will be thy servant, O king, and I have been thy father's servant, hitherto, so will I now also be thy servant. Then mayest thou for me defeat the counsel of Ahithophel. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that name. Verse number 35. And hast thou not there with thee Zodok and Abiathar the priest? Therefore it shall be that what things soever thou shalt hear out of the king's house, thou shalt tell to Zodok and Abiathar the priest. Behold, they have there with them 2 sons, Amaziah, Zadok's son, and Jonathan, Abiathar's son. And by them ye shall send unto me everything that you can hear. So Hushai, David's friend, came into the city, and Absalom came into Jerusalem. So now King David's priests, they were there. One person that was also a conspirator, or somebody who wasn't really rocking with King David, was going back over there to Jerusalem. And so David sent his friend Hushai, like, look, go over there too. Because King David is like, I need to see.
All yours.
How do you sleep at night?
On a mattress from Mattress Firm. They have a low price guarantee.
I don't even
so
know
I
what these
sleep.
are called.
Get matched at Mattress Firm? Sleep at night.
But anyway, so he sent them. But remember also in this verse that he prayed to turn the counsel of however you pronounce that name, into foolishness. And as we go into the next chapter, which is chapter 16 of 2 Samuel, we're going to see just exactly what David prayed happen. It was turned into foolishness. But nevertheless, this is going to be part 2 of the spirit of Absalom and dealing with the narcissist spirit. And I will come back with part 3 at a later time and date. So until next time, I'm Janelle.